There's a reason some people seem to talk money into their lives while others push it away without even knowing it. And it's not just talent, luck, or hard work. It's that they've discovered something almost nobody is willing to teach you: the hidden laws of spoken wealth. For decades, Joseph Murphy wrote about how the words you speak out loud and inside your own mind are not empty sounds. They're living forces shaping the blueprint of your future. Tonight, we're going to open the vault. I'm going to reveal 9 secret laws of spoken wealth they don't want you to know, principles so powerful that when you use them with sincerity and consistency, they can quietly rewrite the story of your finances, your confidence, and the way opportunity finds you. These aren't quick hacks or manipulative tricks. They're spiritual, psychological mechanics that connect your language with the creative intelligence of life itself. Before we dive in, I want you to do something simple. Notice how you've been talking about money lately. The jokes you make, the sighs when bills arrive, the way you describe your future. Most people speak their poverty without realizing it. After tonight, you'll never look at words the same way again. And now, we're going to do the very first and most important test to see if you truly want to invite money into your life. Drop a comment below and declare to the universe that you're ready to receive your wealth by writing, "I'm ready to attract my wealth." First law, the law of creative speech. Every word you speak is a seed. Your subconscious is the soil, and it doesn't judge whether a seed is good or bad, it simply grows whatever you plant. Joseph Murphy called speech thought made vocal. When you give thought a voice, you stamp it with extra power. That's why statements like "I'm always broke" or "money never sticks around" don't just describe reality, they create more of it. The wealthy who stay wealthy often have an unconscious habit. They speak in ways that assume increase, not loss. They say "there's always another opportunity" or "I'm richly supplied." Even casual phrases, repeated often, become subconscious orders. Here's a story. A woman I worked with kept saying, "I can't afford it." She didn't realize she was hypnotizing herself into shortage. We replaced that phrase with, "That's not a priority right now, but I live in a universe of endless supply." Within months, her finances steadied because her nervous system stopped living in a state of lack. Practice for the next week. Become a guardian of your tongue. Before speaking about money, pause and ask, does this sentence plant lack or plenty? Speak only words you'd be happy to see bloom. Even neutral phrases can be upgraded. Instead of, "I hope I get paid soon," say, "I give thanks that perfect payment flows to me on time." This isn't superstition. It's neurolinguistic conditioning meeting timeless spiritual law. Speak as if you're giving commands to a creative servant, because in a way you are. Second law, the law of inner agreement. Words by themselves don't create wealth, agreement does. Your subconscious isn't fooled by sentences you don't actually believe. If you stand in front of the mirror saying, "I'm a millionaire," while a voice inside whispers, "Yeah, right," you're planting 2 seeds at once, and the one soaked in doubt usually wins. Spoken wealth begins when what you say and what you feel start to line up. That's why Joseph Murphy always advised people to choose phrases they could emotionally accept. Instead of jumping straight to "I'm fabulously rich," start with something your nervous system can digest day by day. "I'm opening to new channels of income." "I welcome unexpected opportunities to prosper." Those words meet you where you are while stretching you toward increase. Story time. A young graphic designer once told me she felt ridiculous affirming abundance because her bank account was nearly empty. We shifted her language to "I'm learning how to let money serve the good I want to do." That sentence felt sincere, and it unlocked creative ideas that soon doubled her freelance income. Practice before you speak any prosperity statement. Pause and check. Do I sense even a tiny spark of yes in my body? If not, rephrase until you do. Spoken wealth isn't about loud words, it's about words and feelings walking hand in hand. Third law, the law of present tense wealth. Your subconscious lives in the now. It doesn't understand someday, it acts on the tense you choose. That's why declarations like "I will be wealthy" keep abundance forever one step ahead. Joseph Murphy wrote, "Affirm the reality of what you desire is already existing." When you say "I am richly supplied now," you're giving your deeper mind a clear, actionable picture. There's an elegant trick here. Speak as if what you want is unfolding at this very moment. That tiny shift from future to present tells your inner faculties to organize resources, ideas, and people accordingly. Example, think of someone training for a marathon. If they keep saying "one day I'll be a runner," their body won't prime itself fully. But when they declare, "I'm a runner in training," everything from muscle memory to motivation starts adapting. Money works the same way. Mini exercise. Today, craft one statement about wealth in the present tense. Maybe abundance is circulating through my life right now. I am open and ready for generous opportunities today. Say it slowly as if you're describing something already true, and notice how your posture, breath, and mood shift. That alignment is your subconscious beginning to act. Fourth law, the law of imagination in words. Every phrase you speak is a brushstroke, but imagination is the color that makes it vivid. Joseph Murphy insisted that affirmations are most effective when they're soaked in pictures. Why? Because your subconscious doesn't think in grammar, it thinks in images and sensations. Words are the doorway. Imagination is the substance that walks through. Picture this: two people repeat the same sentence. Money flows easily to me. One says it mechanically, like reciting a shopping list. The other closes their eyes, hears coins clinking, sees invoices marked paid, feels the freedom of a clear bank app, maybe even smells the leather of a new wallet. Guess whose subconscious gets the message? Your mind is a projector, and speech is the switch that turns it on. When you combine verbal declarations with mental movies, you're programming your deeper self with blueprints it knows how to build. Here's a story. A teacher I once met was stuck at a salary ceiling. She started using the statement, "I am richly rewarded for sharing knowledge," but at first it felt hollow. She couldn't see it. So we added an exercise. After saying the words, she would imagine students thanking her, publishers emailing book offers, her bank account notifications pinging with royalties. Within a year, she was running online courses, earning 3 times her old income. She hadn't just talked wealth, she had painted it until her subconscious could no longer ignore the canvas. Fifth law, the law of emotional charge. Words alone are like dry seeds. They only sprout when they're watered with emotion. Joseph Murphy would always remind his students that your subconscious doesn't respond to empty syllables, it reacts to the feeling behind them. Spoken wealth is not about chanting words like a robot, it's about allowing your body, your breath, your voice to carry genuine aliveness. That emotional charge is what stamps a command onto the deeper layers of the mind. I once met a young man who worked in a coffee shop while trying to launch an online business. He'd been repeating affirmations about prosperity for months, but they weren't landing. When I asked him to describe how he felt while saying them, he shrugged. Flat, he said. Together we shifted the practice. Instead of mumbling "money flows to me," I asked him to stand tall, breathe deeply, and speak the words with warmth, as if he were telling a friend about a surprise opportunity that had just arrived. Within weeks he started receiving unexpected freelance offers, not because the sentence had changed, but because the vibration behind it finally matched the life he wanted. There was also a woman who had grown up hearing constant arguments about bills at home. Even as an adult, every time she spoke about finances, her voice carried an edge of fear. She learned to pause, place a hand over her heart, and soften her tone before affirming wealth. Over time, her nervous system stopped treating money as a threat. She landed a promotion she'd been too anxious to apply for, and, more importantly, she felt calm when looking at her bank statements. The shift happened because she stopped feeding her subconscious with stress sounds and started feeding it with language bathed in calm confidence. And I remember a retired musician who felt invisible after leaving the stage. He wanted to build a teaching practice but couldn't get past the belief that his best years were behind him. We crafted a declaration: "My talent continues to bring value and abundance." But I didn't let him whisper it. I asked him to sing it, literally to let his voice carry the same warmth he once poured into music. Something about reclaiming his own tone lit a spark inside. Within months, he was teaching private lessons, collaborating on workshops, and earning more than he'd made during his last touring year. The power wasn't in a special set of words, it was in the way his whole body vibrated with conviction as he spoke them. This is the essence of the fifth law: you must feel your statements as you release them. Let your voice be alive, let your face and posture reflect the reality you're calling in. If joy is hard to access, start with gentleness or gratitude. The subconscious doesn't require fireworks, it just needs authenticity. When the sound of your words carries a frequency of peace, excitement, or quiet certainty, your deeper mind treats it as a signal that says, "This is real, prepare to make it happen." Spoken wealth is not mechanical recitation, it's the art of charging language with the same electricity you'd use to animate a dream. The stronger and purer the feeling, the faster the soil of your mind begins to grow what you've planted. Sixth law, the law of consistent voice. There's a quiet but powerful truth that Joseph Murphy emphasized again and again. The subconscious is trained not by what you say once, but by what you consistently say with a steady spirit. Words become architecture when they're repeated like gentle waves polishing a stone. One declaration may spark inspiration, but it's the steady voice that carves a new pattern into your nervous system. I met a young copywriter who loved the idea of affirmations but treated them like a rescue parachute. He only spoke about abundance on the days he felt desperate, blurting out phrases while half worried they wouldn't work. His results were just as erratic as his practice. I suggested that instead of waiting for panic to push him, he create a small daily ritual: morning coffee, 2 minutes of slow breathing, and then a calm repetition of sentences about steady clients and generous pay. The ritual gave his words a heartbeat. Within 3 months his income doubled, not because magic fell from the sky, but because his whole system began expecting stability instead of hoping for a miracle. Then there was a lawyer who carried an old story that money comes with exhaustion. Each time she declared new prosperity, a part of her braced for burnout. I asked her to write a short phrase that felt light. I welcome rewarding work that supports my energy and finances. Every night she whispered it before sleep. No drama, just quiet consistency. Over time she began choosing different cases, aligning with colleagues who respected her limits, and even renegotiating her hours. Her income stayed solid, and for the first time she woke up rested. The law wasn't about force, it was about a gentle, steady imprint that told her subconscious a new way was safe. And there was a man rebuilding after bankruptcy. He wanted a fast turnaround, but his voice carried impatience, like he was scolding the universe. We worked on softening that urgency. He learned to speak a single line morning and evening. I'm rebuilding my wealth with grace. At first it felt too calm, almost boring, but that was the point. The steadiness was medicine for his frayed confidence. Over months he noticed that new contracts, referrals, and chances to collaborate appeared, not as explosions but as a steady stream. He began to trust himself again because his words had become like a lighthouse beam, always there, guiding him forward, no matter the weather. That's the essence of this law. The subconscious loves rhythm. It learns through repetition delivered with the same emotional temperature. When you whisper your wealth sentences only when you're panicked or wildly excited, you train your inner mind to link abundance with instability. But when you offer those sentences like steady breaths, morning after morning, evening after evening, you teach your deeper self that wealth is a reliable friend, not a sudden storm. So choose 1 or 2 phrases that carry the life you want, and let them become as natural as brushing your teeth. Speak them while you walk, while you prepare dinner, as you settle into bed. Don't rush for proof after every session. Let consistency do its quiet work. Over time, you'll look back and realize that the voice you kept showing up with, soft but firm, has been laying down tracks for the very life you're now living. That's the quiet genius of the law of consistent voice. It doesn't shout, it doesn't hurry, but it always delivers. 7th law, the law of spoken gratitude. Gratitude isn't just a polite word you tack onto the end of a prayer, it's a magnetic current that pulls more of what you appreciate straight into your life. Joseph Murphy often said that the subconscious mind blooms where appreciation is planted. When you speak about money or opportunity with a grateful tongue, you're telling the deeper layers of yourself, this is safe, this is welcome, give me more of this. I remember a young photographer who used to sigh every time she talked about paying her bills. She was talented but constantly felt behind. I suggested she experiment with a new way of speaking about her finances. Instead of saying, "I never have enough," she began greeting each payment with, "I'm thankful this money is circulating back to me multiplied." At first it felt awkward, like she was faking it. But the words slowly softened something inside her. She started noticing small wins. Clients paying faster, referrals landing in her inbox. Gratitude didn't change her prices overnight, but it changed the energy behind every conversation she had about her work, and that opened doors. Another story comes from a restaurateur who hit a rough patch during a renovation. Each day he walked through the half-finished dining room muttering about delays. I asked him to try a different script, to thank the space out loud for the meals it would soon host, to thank the empty chairs for the laughter that was coming. It wasn't about denying the mess, it was about seeding appreciation into what was becoming. The mood on site shifted, workers showed up on time, new investors stepped in, and when the restaurant finally opened, it felt as though the walls themselves had absorbed weeks of spoken thanks. And there's a friend of mine who went through a divorce and was terrified about standing on her own financially. She kept repeating worries about rent, groceries, and car repairs. One morning I invited her to speak gratitude for things she already had: the sunlight on her kitchen counter, the steady rhythm of her own breath, the tiny savings account she'd almost forgotten. She started weaving that thankfulness into her affirmations about income and security. The words grew warmer, steadier, until gratitude and expectation danced together in her voice. Within a year, she had built a coaching practice that supported her life beautifully, but even before the money came, peace had arrived because her words stopped rehearsing fear and began rehearsing appreciation. This is the quiet brilliance of spoken gratitude. It tells your subconscious that abundance is not a stranger at the door, it's already sitting at your table. When you talk about wealth with thankfulness, even before the evidence appears, you create an inner climate where good things can take root. It doesn't mean ignoring challenges, it means refusing to let complaints have the loudest voice. Each time you say thank you for what's moving toward me, you train your deeper mind to keep opening the gate. So let your affirmations wear the clothing of gratitude. Speak them as if they're gifts you're unwrapping rather than distant hopes you're chasing. Gratitude makes your words ring with a warmth the subconscious loves to obey, and that warmth has a way of calling prosperity closer, step by steady step. Eighth law, the law of bold declaration. There comes a moment in every wealth journey when quiet repetition isn't enough. You have to let your voice carry weight, to speak your intention out loud with the kind of certainty that makes the room pause. Joseph Murphy believed that boldness isn't arrogance, it's alignment. When you speak wealth with clear authority, you're telling your subconscious this is no longer a wish, it's the way things are. I once worked with an architect who had a brilliant portfolio but kept shrinking his rates in client meetings. Inside he believed he deserved better, yet every time he spoke about money, hesitation blurred the edges of his words. We practiced bold declaration. Before calls, he would stand tall, breathe deep, and rehearse a single sentence. My skills create immense value, and I'm paid accordingly. The first time he said it on a real call, something clicked. The client didn't flinch at his fee. In fact, they seemed relieved by his confidence. Speaking boldly had given permission for others to believe him. Another story. A retired nurse dreamed of starting an online wellness school. She had plans, a website, even a few lesson videos, but her language about it was timid. Maybe it'll work, I'll see how it goes. I suggested she claim it out loud. Every morning I run a thriving wellness academy that helps thousands. At first she laughed at herself, but slowly the sentence began to feel like a garment she could grow into. Her posture shifted, her emails carried more clarity, and within months her enrollment surpassed every cautious estimate she'd made. And then there's Marcus, a contractor who rebuilt after losing his business in a flood. He came to me saying, I hope I can recover. Hope had kept him afloat, but it wasn't steering the ship. I taught him to use bold declarations, not shouting, not bluffing, but grounded authority. I'm rebuilding a company stronger than before. He spoke it each morning, standing in his unfinished office, dust all around. That sentence gave his hands direction. Within a year, he wasn't just back. He had more staff, steadier contracts, and an unshakable calm because he had spoken himself into a leader again. The law of bold declaration isn't about screaming affirmations into the mirror or forcing yourself to believe something you secretly doubt. It's about letting your tone, body, and words align with a future that's already forming. When you declare with quiet strength, you cut through inner noise. Your subconscious hears clarity and begins to organize around it. Speak your wealth statements as if they belong to you, because they do even before evidence appears. Say them standing, breathing, letting the sound settle in the air. Boldness makes your words solid. It stops them from being fragile hopes and turns them into coordinates your mind can follow. So let yourself speak with the calm courage of someone who knows the ground under their feet. That's how declarations become doors opening onto the life you're ready to live. Ninth law, the law of consistent conversation. If there's one thread running through everything Joseph Murphy taught about prosperity, it's this: you don't speak wealth once and walk away. You cultivate an ongoing conversation with life itself. Steady, natural, alive. Your words become the weather your subconscious grows under, and consistency is what lets the soil stay fertile. I met a copywriter who used to binge on affirmations for a week whenever rent was due, then forget about them once the pressure eased. Her results were just as erratic as her practice. We reframed her approach. Instead of frantic bursts, she began weaving wealth talk into her ordinary sentences. When she poured her morning coffee, she'd murmur, "Every sip fuels a thriving business." On walks, she'd tell the sky, "Ideas and clients find me easily." The more casual her consistency became, the more stable her income grew. as if her deeper mind finally had a signal it could trust. There was also a father running a small grocery, exhausted from long hours and razor-thin margins. He tried every tactic he read about, but only spoke affirmations on Sundays almost apologetically. One night, after closing, he stood among the quiet shelves and softly said, "This store is a wellspring of good for my family and community." He repeated it the next morning and again at lunchtime. Soon the words became part of how he greeted the day, stacked produce, counted cash. Within months, customers lingered longer, word of mouth spread, and his own posture behind the counter was lighter, as if the store could finally hear what he wanted it to be. And I'll never forget a singer who came to me desperate to make a living from her music. She'd belt powerful songs on stage but whisper about her future off stage, as though afraid to jinx herself. We worked on giving her voice the same strength in conversation that she had in performance. She began narrating her path. "I'm an artist whose songs opened doors and sustained my life." She said it while tuning her guitar, while folding laundry, while driving between gigs. After a while, the lines stopped sounding like practice and started sounding like fact. Her bookings expanded, a producer invited her to collaborate, and most importantly, she began to feel at home inside her own dream. That's the heart of the law. Wealth words must live with you, not just visit when you're in crisis. Consistency isn't about rigid schedules or forced enthusiasm. It's about letting your language of prosperity become as natural as checking the time or greeting a friend. When your affirmations echo through the quiet corners of your day, they sculpt an atmosphere your subconscious can lean into. Over time, that steady climate grows roots, habits, opportunities, and the outward results start to match the inner conversation you've been hosting all along. So speak often, speak gently, speak as someone tending a garden. Let your talk of abundance be the background music of your hours. That constancy tells your deeper self, this is who we are, this is how life treats us. And from there, everything you've been naming begins to settle into form. And there you have it, 9 living laws of spoken wealth, waiting for you to give them a voice. They're not abstract theories. They're tools meant to sit on your tongue, to echo in your mind, to build a new story about what's possible. Take one today, maybe the law that lit up something inside you, and let it ride along with you through the week. Speak it in the car, in the shower, while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. Watch how those words start shaping the way you feel, the way you decide, the way opportunities seem to drift closer. If this message resonated, if you felt a spark of clarity or hope while listening, I'd love for you to stay connected. Hit subscribe and turn on the little bell so you don't miss the next step on this journey. Every week we explore another layer of Joseph Murphy's wisdom, ideas you can weave straight into your life. And if you know someone who could use a reminder that their words carry power, share this video with them. You never know how far a single sentence can travel. Remember, your voice is building tomorrow right now. Keep speaking with purpose, keep imagining richly, and I'll see you in the next video.